and exposed. I want to just do a quick little like history, I guess, sort of, not so much on the film, but I just even, me and other guys my age, about how we felt when we saw this film. There was a time, around this time in the late 70s, when this film came out in 77 or 70, I think it came out in 78. Yeah, it says 77 on there, but it was 78 when it was actually released.
Late reaction.
Yeah, my screen world says 78. And, but the thing about it was, you know, if you liked this kind of New York, these kind of actors, this kind of milieu, and also kind of fucked up in the head psychodrama, you know, then, you know, for a long time, the only real game in town was Martin Scorsese. But then in a few short period of years, in the late 70s, then came James Toback, and then after him came Abel Ferrara. And you guys created like a pretty fucked up trifecta of out there, balls to the walls, filmmakers on point about your obsessions. But the thing about it is, one of the things that I've always admired about you was you were the one coming from a complete writer's background. You're the real writer-director of the group. And it's about the page as much as it is the film.
And the page was coming from the life, and even though these aren't literally autobiographical movies, there were people and characters and worlds that I really knew and was writing from, and I had an ear for them. I loved the language. I loved listening to them and watching them and getting inside them. I'll tell you a funny story about the ear and writing for an ear with Jim Brown. I had lived with Jim for about a year and a half, and I thought I certainly knew his voice better than anyone, maybe even better than he knew his own, and I wrote the dialogue totally for him. And the first reading, Harvey, Michael Gazzo, Jim, and Tisa and I were all reading together, and everyone's fine, and Jim was completely arch and stiff. And I couldn't understand why. It was written exactly in his idiom. And finally, being a rookie director and not having any tact, I said to him, "Jim, this is terrible. What's wrong?" and he said, "What do you mean it's terrible? What don't you like about it?" I said, "Well, it's kind of stiff and unnatural." He said, "What do you mean by stiff and unnatural?" I said, "No, it just isn't you. It's written in your idiom and it isn't you." He said, "What do you mean it isn't me?" And this got down the chain of menace to the point where I thought I better just halt the conversation for the moment. Then later on that night, I was alone with him in his room in the New York Hilton, and I took up the challenge again with equal lack of success. And I thought, what the fuck am I going to do? I can't believe this isn't working. And then all of a sudden I thought, why don't you just tape in your words the substance of what I wrote, and I'll record it and transcribe it. He said, "Well, if that's what you want me to do, that's what I'll do." And he did, and of course it was very close to what was written, slightly different, but it was his.
Yeah.
Because it was
the motherfucker was put from here to here.
All of a sudden it was completely natural. And the sense of writing for people and getting close to the way they speak and the way they think and the way they move, letting them wear the clothes they want to wear, all of that, I think, contributed to making it feel real. And my goal always was to be highly stylized in image and lens, but to be completely naturalistic in behavior within the stylized frame.
Well, you know, one of the things that was so good about your films, and it's in every single one of them, and I've always just had appreciation for this, is, you know, we don't have to guess what your obsessions are. They're right there, all right, to be rummaged through, no less. All right? You know, we know your favorite authors. We know the 50s rock and roll that you like. All right, like every time I'm hearing a guy make some outrageous statement to a woman, I know that was like played out somewhere in real life. All right? And you also have these. Great little, throughout all your movies, you can start counting them up, these great little, like, badass statements of fact. Okay, something, okay, like in Fingers, Jim Brown He goes, you want me to leave? If I wanted you to leave, I'd tell you to leave. All right, and that's repeated in Exposed with Harvey Keitel. He goes, you sucked in one of his terrorist guys. And he goes, well, did you kill him or did you not kill him? And he goes, I think I did. Did you think or do you know? Yes, then I know I did. Well, never say you think when you know or you know when you think.
Yeah. The heightened impact that language has when it's used under stressful circumstances always has been exciting to me. When you get articulate people under stress, if they stay articulate, it's great. Yeah. If they fumble around, you don't want to use it. But some people you are a master at that. I mean, you're always having people be incredibly smart and articulate and the most...
Wordsmiths with guns in their mouths, practically, yeah.
That's great. It's also true of people who rise to the occasion. And those are the people you want to transcribe and use. And it's particularly interesting because I remember I forgot to tell you actually, that is what Norman said when I told you how much he liked Pulp Fiction. And he said he knew you were for real when the burger talk started in Pulp Fiction. And he said, this guy can put crazy dialogue in the mouth of people at the oddest moments and make it real. And he said, and sustain it.
Oh man, cool.
And that was and when you have a lot of physical behavior mixed with that, it can really be exhilarating.
Well, you know, you told me this one story that's one of my favorites, because literally one of my favorite lines of yours, in fact, probably my favorite line, along with that Harvey Keitel one about never say you know when you think or you think when you know, is, well, also like his, I won't spoil for anyone. When you see the movie, you won't know the context, but we thought it was all talk. Yeah, it's a great line. Yeah. But the other favorite line is Jim Brown saying, hey, man tell you in certain situations, his dick ain't worth the shit, that man's telling you a lie. Now, you told me a story about that it happened, Jim...
Well, in Jim's house in the 70s, this wouldn't be happening today. This is in the pre-AIDS era, when one could mix it up without fear of complications, and medical and otherwise. But Jim... it's as it is in Fingers. It had a kind of double edge to it. Any motherfucker telling you in certain situations dick ain't worth a shit is lying. That can only be said when your dick is in good shape and the other guy's isn't. The empathy can be afforded. But it is an unexpected line to be coming from Jim, and the whole idea of playing against conventional ideas of potency is one that I find tremendously appealing. And living in Jim's house, one was constantly seeing evidence of that. The guys who were really powerful were the ones, and confident were the ones who were not afraid to admit or even make fun of their own failures, inadequacies, and temporary incapacities.
I mean, I would think that, you know, Jim Brown's house in the 70s would be a very testosterone-filled place with a lot of men, you know, drawing lines in the sand and hanging on to their masculinity, you know, when confronted with Jim Brown's self.
Well, it was, and by the way, again, there were always these unexpected great counterpoints, like people playing chess at the same time as the other stuff was going on.